That numbness is your soul asking for motion, not rest. You must force yourself to act, not because you're ready, but because action creates readiness. Progress begins the moment you move through the fog. The way out isn't waiting, it's walking. That's how strength is built, step by reluctant step. How to force yourself forward when you feel nothing. So discipline replaces numbness forever. You are not your feelings. You are your standards. You wake up blank, no spark, no fire. The air feels heavy, but nothing is wrong. That's the trap. Because when nothing is wrong, most people do nothing. They wait. They wait for motivation, for a sign, for energy. And in waiting, they wither. But listen closely. You are not your feelings. You are your decision. The man who only moves when he feels like it is a puppet, controlled by moods, swayed by invisible forces. But the man who moves regardless, he becomes the master of his destiny. So what do you do when the fire is gone? You move anyway. You don't wait for emotion. You create momentum. Start with your shoes. Put them on. Walk. Say one powerful sentence out loud. Move your body like a soldier and your soul will catch up. Imagine this. You rise from bed, still half asleep, but you force a breath. You stretch your arms. You whisper, "Let's go." And by noon, you've conquered more than the man who waited all day to feel like it. Ask yourself, have you confused mood with meaning? Are you living as a cause or as an effect? You don't need to feel alive to act alive. Action first, feeling follows. The day belongs to the man who claims it, not the one who waits to be claimed. Most people wait. Winners create. Most people spend their lives waiting. They wait for courage, wait for clarity, wait for passion. And in that waiting, they lose years. You weren't born to wait. You were born to work, to build, to create. The difference between the man who wins and the man who wanders is simple. One moves through resistance. The other moves only when it's easy. When nothing excites you, you create your own spark. Not by talking, not by hoping, but by doing something difficult, deliberately. That's when you shift. When most people lean back, you lean in. What do you do when you feel nothing? You make a list. You command your feet. You speak life into the day. You speak power, even if your voice shakes. Picture yourself walking into a room. No one's clapping, no one's calling, but you straighten your back. You set the tone. You act like it matters, because it does. Do you really want to be the person who only acts when life is easy? Or will you become the one who builds while others break? Most men wait for opportunity to find them, but you build the door. The body leads, the mind follows. Your mind might feel foggy, but your body, it's a machine. And machines don't run on emotion, they run on command. So when your head feels heavy, lead with motion. Movement is medicine. When you force yourself to act, to lift, to walk, to speak, you begin to change your chemistry. Stillness breeds more stillness. Action breaks the chain. Most people sit, they stare, they sulk, but not you. You rise. When nothing makes sense, do something that does. Make your bed, sweep the floor, run up a hill. Not because it fixes everything, but because it starts something. You don't have to feel ready to act. You act until you feel ready. Your ancestors didn't wait for motivation to plow the field. They moved, they built, they endured. And in that, they found strength. So imagine this. You feel nothing, but you walk outside anyway. You speak a truth aloud. You stand taller. Your breath deepens. Suddenly you remember. This is what power feels like. You can't think your way out of a hole, but you can climb out, one motion at a time. So ask yourself, is your body waiting for your feelings, or are your feelings waiting for your movement? Discipline is stronger than mood. Every person who's ever accomplished something meaningful has at one point or many done it without wanting to. They didn't feel like it. They weren't motivated, but they moved. That's the truth no one wants to hear. We glorify passion. We romanticize inspiration. But when the moment came, when it mattered most, what they felt didn't matter. What mattered was what they chose. Victory belongs to the one who acts without applause, without a rush of energy, without a perfect reason. Because discipline isn't loud, it's not emotional. It's a quiet vow you keep, especially when nothing inside you wants to keep it. Feelings are weather. Discipline is structure. Feelings drift. Discipline anchors. If you rely on how you feel, you'll start and stop 1,000 times. But if you rely on what you decided, you'll finish every time. That's what separates those who merely try from those who become. Discipline doesn't ask, do you feel like it today? It says, do it anyway. Every link you add to that chain makes you stronger. You don't need louder motivation. You need deeper commitments. the kind you honor without drama, without audience, without delay. Most people need to feel good to move, but winners move and then feel good. That's the system. If the alarm rings, they rise. If the task is there, they attack it. They don't bargain with laziness. They don't justify inaction, and they don't seek excuses. They seek completion. You've done this before. You've lifted yourself when you were drained. You've delivered when no one saw you. That wasn't luck. That was a flash of your real self, the disciplined, grounded version. Now imagine if that version led every day. Picture this. You're out in the cold rain, no coat, no cover. The weak run for shelter. But you walk steady, focused, because you're not here for comfort. You're here for completion. And when others quit, you continue. Not because it feels good, but because you said you would. That's power. That's freedom. When your actions are no longer tied to emotions, you become unstoppable. Ask yourself, who are you when no one's watching? What would your life look like if you stopped waiting to feel ready and just acted? You weren't made to obey your feelings. You were made to forge them. Burn that truth into your habits, into your walk, into your name. Every morning is war. Win it early. There's a battle every single morning, and it begins the moment your eyes open. No announcements, no warning, just a question. Will you command this day or will you submit to it? Most people, they surrender before they even stand. They reach for the snooze. They drift. The day claims them before they even rise to claim themselves. But you must become different. You must strike first. Before the doubt creeps in, before the noise of the world starts banging on your door, power belongs to the one who moves first. Not the strongest, not the loudest, but the fastest to act. You don't wait to feel ready, you become ready. The moment you open your eyes, speak power. Not complaints. Don't ask how the day feels. Decide how you'll show up. Don't check the weather, be the weather. Storm through the resistance. Wake with command in your tone and certainty in your step. You build a ritual so strong it pulls you into greatness before the world even wakes up. That ritual becomes your armor, your first line of defense, your sacred hour, where the day bends to your will. Start simple, start strong. Begin with 3 weapons: a powerful thought, a purposeful movement, and an unbreakable decision. That's all it takes to win the first hour. And the one who wins the first hour, they win the whole day. One powerful thought programs your mind. One small movement charges your body. And one decision, kept without compromise, builds the muscle of trust in yourself. This is the battle plan. You don't leave the first hour to chance. You engineer it. Picture this. A man rises before dawn. He sharpens his blade, his mind. Before the birds sing, he's reading, writing, lifting, breathing. Before the sun sees him, he's working. While the rest still wander through sleep, he's advancing. By the time others start moving, he's already winning. Now picture another. Still in bed, still snoozing. The sun rises on both, but only one rises with it. By noon, one is miles ahead. And it's not luck, it's not talent, it's morning warfare. The difference between glory and regret is found in that first hour. You must choose. Will the day happen to you, or will you happen to the day? One is reaction, the other is command. Most people stumble into their day hoping for clarity, hoping for motivation, hoping for direction. But you start with certainty, with movement, with fire. Because if you own the morning, the rest of the day falls into line. Ask yourself, are you the kind of person who waits to be moved, or the kind who moves first and lets the world catch up? You don't need emotion. You need a mission. Most people misunderstand where true power comes from. They think emotion is the engine. They wait to feel excited, feel ready, feel motivated. But emotion is smoke. It rises and vanishes. It flares and fades. It's not the engine. It's the exhaust. What lasts, what drives, what builds is mission. Mission gives you the reason to act when nothing feels right. Mission doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't ask how your day is going. It just whispers, get up, keep going, we've got work to do. Without a mission, every task feels heavy, every hardship feels unfair. You look for shortcuts, you start and stop. But with a mission, even pain becomes holy. Exhaustion becomes sacred. There's a difference between suffering aimlessly and suffering with purpose. You don't need fireworks in your chest every morning. You need a North Star, something worth pushing for. When your legs tremble, when no one is watching, when the rewards feel far away, that's when your mission does its greatest work, by holding you still when emotion would have blown you off course. A person with no mission is like a feather in the wind, light, fragile, directionless. They move wherever life blows. One bad day, they're down. One critic, they quit. One delay, they drift. But a person with purpose, they become the wind. They cut through excuses. They move with power, not panic. They aren't tossed. They tread forward. They don't chase comfort. They chase completion. And because they're anchored to something deeper, they can outlast those who live on feeling alone. So ask yourself, what drives you? What mission is worth waking up for even when your body says no? Is it your family's future, your freedom, the fire to create something that no one else believes in but you? What's your why that refuses to let you quit, even when quitting looks easy? If you can't answer that, nothing else will hold. But once you do, everything else aligns. Now imagine waking up with that mission stamped into your chest. You don't crawl into the day, you charge. You already know what must be done. The weather doesn't matter. Your feelings don't matter. Someone's opinion doesn't even register. You wake with direction. You move with authority. You endure with joy, because the pain has a purpose. Nothing is more energizing than knowing you're not wasting time, you're fulfilling a calling. That's why your mission must be written down, clear, unshakable. Read it every morning. Tattoo it on your mind. Let it burn in your bloodstream. When you feel low, read it again. When you feel empty, speak it aloud. When you feel distracted, return to it, because emotion will betray you. Motivation will run late. But mission? Mission shows up every single time. So ask yourself this final question. Is your life being led by impulse or by intention? One leads to regret, the other leads to legacy. You weren't built to follow your feelings, you were built to forge through them. Let your mission be your fire, and never let it go out. You were built for storms, not silence. Life was never meant to be easy. And you weren't made for ease. You were crafted for storms, for pressure, for challenge, for resistance. That's where the real work happens. That's where you happen, in the struggle, in the discomfort, in the places where the world presses in and demands more than you feel ready to give. Oddly enough, it's in those exact moments that your true strength is born. Ease softens, struggle sharpens, and somewhere deep inside, you already know that. When nothing excites you, when the days feel flat, the hours feel numb, it's not because you've lost something. It's because you've stopped stepping into the arena. You've gotten too careful, too safe, too quiet. You've avoided discomfort for so long, you forgot how to fight. Your edge has dulled, not because life beat you, but because you stopped choosing resistance. The fire that once moved you didn't burn out. It was starved. You've let the silence settle in, and now it's time to shake it off. Remember this. Iron doesn't sharpen in stillness. It sharpens in fire, under pressure, against grit. That's where the edge returns. That's where the blade remembers its bite. And you are no different. You do not evolve through repetition. You evolve through resistance. That's why you must not run from the hard things. You must lean in. You must choose the task that terrifies, the mission that overwhelms, the road that rises up to meet you with teeth. Most people crave a quiet life, but end up with a silent one. They chase comfort so hard they lose aliveness. They wake up in beds they don't remember choosing, walk paths they didn't build, and fill their days with routine, void of fire, void of challenge, void of real living. It's quiet, yes, but it's the quiet of slow erosion, quiet desperation, a life that never truly lived. But you were never meant for that kind of sleep. You choose the storm. You walk into the test. You volunteer for the wait, because that's where your real self emerges. You don't grow by avoiding the edge. You grow by dancing on it. You want to feel alive again? Then scare yourself. Do something you're not ready for. Speak before you feel steady. Volunteer first. Lead the charge. Say yes when every cell screams no. That's where the blood returns. That's where the fire roars again. Now picture this. You stand at a crossroads. One path is smooth, familiar, the path of comfort. The other, rocky, unknown. It looks difficult, unpredictable. It demands something from you. Most people, they walk left, toward ease, toward safety, toward nothingness. But you walk forward, straight into the wind. Not because it's safe, not because it's easy, but because it's right. Because that's where your future lives, in the heat, in the cold, in the wild places. Ask yourself, are you shrinking into safety or stepping into strength? The question isn't about pain, it's about purpose, about choosing the kind of life that doesn't just exist, but awakens. And when you feel numb, when nothing stirs you, don't sit still. Walk into the wind. head high, shoulders square. That's where your power lives. That's where your blood returns. And that's where you return. You can build momentum out of nothing. The most powerful people in history didn't begin with motivation. They didn't wait for applause. They didn't sit around hoping for the perfect plan, the perfect mood, or the perfect timing. They started with nothing, no certainty, no map, no encouragement, just a simple decision to move, quietly, steadily, without fanfare. And they kept moving when the noise was absent, when no one noticed, when the results weren't immediate, because they understood the truth. Greatness doesn't erupt. It accumulates, brick by brick, step by step, action by action. Here's the secret that most people never learn. You don't need a big action. You need a first action. Not a grand plan, not a perfect schedule, just a start. One decision, one page written, one lap run, one call made. That single movement is where it all begins. Not because it transforms your world in that instant, but because it breaks inertia. And once you defeat inertia, momentum becomes your ally. Not through force, but through consistency. Momentum isn't built through massive effort. It's built through unbroken effort. What matters most is not how much you can do today, it's whether you'll still be doing it tomorrow. Tiny, consistent effort outpaces scattered intensity. And something strange happens once you start. Energy doesn't precede the movement. It follows it. You don't feel energized first and then act. You act first, and then energy arrives. The mind starts to focus, the body wakes up, the fire returns, not by chance, but by motion. Most people wait to feel right before they begin, but feelings are fragile, unreliable, fog. They change with the weather, the sleep, the food, the mood. If you trust them to move, you'll stay still. But if you move despite them, you'll discover clarity. Because movement creates feedback. Action generates direction. One small act opens a path you couldn't see before. And once you see that path, you rise. Not because you were ready, but because you refused to stay down. Imagine this. You sit alone. The day feels hollow. The room is quiet. There's no rush of inspiration, no divine signal, just you and the next moment. But instead of waiting, you move. You pick up your notebook. You sketch a messy idea. You write a single sentence. You stand and stretch. You take a slow walk. You breathe with intention. One tiny act, then another. And by sunset, you've created something from nothing. You didn't need a miracle. You just needed movement. This is the principle that separates the builders from the dreamers, the finishers from the waiters. Dreamers hope, builders do. And they do it even when it feels small, especially when it feels small. Because they know every great creation, every empire, every book, every transformation began with one unremarkable act, one decision made on a day that didn't feel special. The world doesn't reward potential, it rewards traction. And traction is earned by doing something today, no matter how little it seems. Ask yourself now, how many days have you lost waiting for a perfect one? How many mornings slipped by because you didn't feel in the zone? How many ideas died unborn because you didn't take the first step? The truth is, you don't need more time. You don't need better feelings. You don't need a breakthrough. You need traction. You need that first inch forward. That first brick placed, that first drop of sweat. The rest will follow. The energy, the rhythm, the focus, the wins, all of it comes after the first move, but not before. So stop waiting. Don't wait for clarity. Move until it arrives. Don't wait to feel strong. Act until you become it. Start small, start now. And never stop, because once you begin, momentum becomes your companion, and momentum turns the impossible into the inevitable. Weakness leaves when discipline enters. Every person has weakness, every one of us. Doubt, laziness, fear, the urge to quit. It lives in the background, always looking for an opening, and it will win if you feed it. But the disciplined person, they don't feed it. They don't water it with excuses. They don't sit down and reason with it. They starve it completely, not with rage, but with silence. They ignore its cries. They outlast its temptations. And day by day, it grows weaker until it can no longer rise against them. Discipline is not about being perfect. It's not about waking up in a perfect state of mind or feeling motivated 365 days a year. Discipline is about having a rope strong enough to pull you out of the pit, especially on the days when you feel nothing. It's about doing what you said you would do regardless of your current emotional state, because emotions are clouds. Discipline is stone. And if you want to build something that lasts, you don't build it on feelings. You build it on foundation. People often confuse discipline with ambition. They think it's about chasing huge dreams or grand goals. But that's only a part of it. True discipline is found in the smallest corners of life. The daily decisions, the ones no one sees, no cameras, no praise, no applause, just you and the standard you've sworn to uphold. It's in what you eat, what you say, what you do when you don't feel like doing anything. It's the ability to show up consistently, not perfectly, but relentlessly. Most people break in silence, not in chaos, not in war, but in quiet moments, in the softness of a morning when no one is watching, in the stillness of a decision made alone. They fold, they slip, because their strength depended on pressure, not principle. But you must be different. You must be the one who obeys your own orders, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, because that's when the transformation happens. Not when it's easy, but when it's unbearable and you stay the course. Imagine this. You're standing in front of a task you hate. There's no excitement, no thrill, just the grind. You look at it, you feel nothing, but you step forward anyway. You begin. Maybe slow, maybe clumsy, but you begin. That act right there is everything. That's what changes you, not the task itself, but your refusal to escape it. Slowly, the task begins to lose its grip. Its weight diminishes. You grow, not because it got easier, but because you got stronger. Weakness doesn't die quickly. It dies from starvation, and that starvation is discipline. Every time you choose action over excuse, focus over distraction, consistency over comfort, you are cutting off weakness at the root. And yes, it fights back. It screams for relief, but you don't give it an inch. You let it wither. You let it shrink. You keep moving, not because it's glorious, but because it's necessary. Ask yourself now, are you feeding your strength or feeding your excuses? Because you can't do both. Every decision tips the scale. Every moment is a fork in the road, and no one's coming to save you from the wrong choice. Only you can set the standard, and only you can keep it, even when it's cold, even when it's lonely, even when the world says, take it easy. That's when you tighten the rope. That's when you dig in. Discipline is not a feeling. It's not even a habit. It's a conviction. A private vow to yourself. I do what I say. I don't betray my own word. When that becomes your identity, everything shifts. Your energy returns. Your mind clears. Your backbone strengthens. Because now weakness has no seat at your table. It has no room in your house. You've chosen to live with standards, not with excuses. Discipline is the enemy of weakness. Bring one in, and the other must leave. You can't serve both. You can't walk both paths. One leads to power, the other to regret. So choose right now, not tomorrow, not next week, right now. What will you feed? And when the day is long, when the fatigue whispers lies, when nothing in you feels like continuing, remember this: the disciplined one moves anyway, and because of that, they become someone else entirely. Someone unstoppable, someone forged by fire, someone even their old self wouldn't recognize. Be that person. Starve the weakness, feed the standard, and never look back. You are training the world how to treat you every single day. Whether you realize it or not, you are teaching people who you are, not with your words, but with your behavior, not with declarations, but with decisions. You teach people what's acceptable by what you tolerate in yourself, and here's the hard truth. Every time you quit on your goals, your standards, or your promises to yourself, you silently tell the world it's okay to treat me this way. Because if you don't respect your own word, why should they? But when you force yourself, especially when you feel nothing, you broadcast a different message. You show the world something rare. You show that you are reliable, that you are not a product of mood, weather, emotion, or circumstance. You act not because it feels good, but because it's right. You act because you gave yourself a command and you intend to honor it. And that quiet reliability becomes your greatest form of power. Respect is not built in moments of glory. It's built in the invisible acts. It's born when you do the hard thing alone, with no audience, when you keep your word in the darkness, when you rise without recognition. Those acts accumulate. They build your spine. They carve your name. And though most people won't say a word, they notice. Quietly, subconsciously, they begin to adjust around you. That's the secret most miss. You don't ask for respect, you command it. Through consistency, through reliability, through showing up sharp when others show up sloppy. People may not understand why they listen when you speak or why they instinctively follow when you move, but it's because you've trained them by first training yourself. Your presence says, I don't bend, and that silent message is louder than any speech. Picture this. Two people enter a room. One drags his feet. He slouches, he sighs, he looks defeated before the day begins. He may not say it aloud, but his posture whispers, "I've given up on myself." The other walks in with quiet strength, head up, eyes forward, calm, focused, intentional. He doesn't shout, he doesn't brag, but the room notices. His discipline speaks for him. That's what quiet authority looks like. So ask yourself, who are you becoming? Because you're becoming someone whether you're paying attention or not. Every action, every pattern, every standard you either hold or break is forming the type of person you are. Are you teaching the world that you're strong, that you finish what you start, that your words mean something? Or are you teaching them to take you lightly because you take yourself lightly? When you show up sharp, mentally, physically, emotionally, the world adjusts. It meets you with higher energy, greater opportunity, more respect. But when you slack, when you let yourself slide, the world mirrors that too. It lowers the bar. It reflects your lowered standard. That's why you must start with you. Before you try to change how others treat you, change how you treat you. You want your boss, your peers, your clients, your friends, your family to take you seriously? Then take yourself seriously. Show them day by day that you are not to be doubted. Not because you shout your worth, but because you prove it in silence. Let your habits speak. Let your discipline speak. Let your refusal to fold under pressure speak. That's how the world learns who you are. And it doesn't take grand gestures, it takes daily alignment. Wake up and make your bed, not for the room, but for your mind. Speak with clarity, not to impress, but to express truth. Train your body, not for vanity, but to build discipline. Show up early, speak less, finish what you start. These are not small acts. These are how empires are built, one brick at a time, laid by someone who no longer tolerates weakness. Begin where it's hard, begin where it's quiet, begin where you don't feel ready. Because the world is watching, not with eyes, but with response. And how it responds to you will always mirror how you treat yourself. You don't need a crowd. You don't need applause. You need a standard that refuses to bend. So the question is simple. Are you training the world to take you seriously or softly? And if you don't like the answer, the solution starts with a single step. Begin. Begin with strength. Begin with discipline. Begin again if you must, but begin. Because every time you sharpen yourself, the world feels it. Every time you raise your standard, the world rises too. And one day, without realizing it, you'll walk into a room and it will fall quiet. Not out of fear, not out of fame, but out of respect. Because you've taught them who you are. By first refusing to be anything less. Nothing changes if you don't act differently. Most people think time changes things. They believe that if they just wait long enough, their lives will somehow improve. They mark days off the calendar as if the passage of time itself carries magic. But time is passive. Time doesn't change your habits. Time doesn't shift your identity. Time doesn't rewrite your story. Action does. You can wait 5 years and still be in the exact same place, mentally, physically, emotionally. You can grow older without ever growing up. What moves your life forward is not the tick of the clock. It's the decision to do something different. And that decision becomes most vital when you feel nothing, that emptiness, that boredom, that lack of fire. That is the test. That's the battlefield where your future is decided. Anyone can act when they feel inspired. Anyone can move when momentum is already on their side. But those who transform, they move when it's quiet. They move when the heart feels flat, the sky looks gray, and nothing inside says go. That's the difference between repeating your life and rebuilding it. Change doesn't arrive at your doorstep. It doesn't come wrapped with motivation and sunshine. Change is created through resistance, through discomfort, through small, powerful shifts that feel inconvenient but matter deeply. It's built one decision at a time, by choosing the uncomfortable option, by breaking the lazy habit, by confronting the behavior that holds you back, and replacing it with something stronger. If you always rise late, force yourself to rise early, not because the morning has special powers, but because you do. And you need to prove to yourself that you can choose effort over ease. If you always quit when things get hard, force yourself to finish strong. Finish when it's inconvenient, when your body aches, when your mind resists, because that's how you start rewiring your destiny. The smallest change in behavior can plant the seed of a completely new life. One different choice today creates a ripple effect into every tomorrow. One stronger decision now begins the erosion of years of weakness. And slowly but surely, those little acts of strength add up. You begin to trust yourself again. You begin to walk taller. You begin to become the person you once only imagined. Picture this. You walk the same path to work every day. Same sights, same sounds, same pace. It's predictable, it's safe, but it's also stale. Now imagine one morning you take a new turn. It's unfamiliar, it's longer, it's harder, but it shakes you awake. It forces you to see new things, think new thoughts, move with intention. That one detour shifts your entire rhythm. It awakens parts of you that routine had put to sleep. This is how change begins. Not with a bang, not with a full transformation overnight, but with a different step, a different word, a different choice. And once you take it, you're no longer stuck. You're moving. And movement is momentum. Momentum is power. Ask yourself this: are you truly changing your life or just recycling your days? Are you growing or are you just aging? Because the truth is, if your actions don't change, your outcomes won't either. You can read every book, watch every video, make every vision board, but if you don't act differently, nothing will ever change. And that's the uncomfortable truth most avoid. Progress isn't about time, it's about change. So when you feel like nothing is shifting, shift yourself. When nothing moves inside you, move outside of yourself. Get uncomfortable. Do the hard thing. Speak power into your day when you want to stay silent. Choose to show up even when no one is asking you to. Choose discipline when your emotions beg for escape, because the person who changes their behavior changes their future, and not just in one area. It echoes into everything. A stronger morning routine gives you more energy. A deeper focus in your work leads to greater opportunity. A harder workout builds mental toughness. A refusal to make excuses strengthens your character. Every small act of intention adds up to a life that commands respect, both from others and from yourself. You don't need more time, you need traction. You need that first move, that brave step, that small change that says, I'm done waiting, I'm ready to evolve. So begin now, where it's quiet, where it's hard, where no one else sees. Because when you stop waiting for change and become the change, you stop recycling days and start rebuilding your life. Most people are ruled by comfort. Comfort is the most dangerous trap you'll ever face because it doesn't look like a trap. It feels good. It feels safe. It whispers gently, you've earned this. You deserve to take it easy. And without warning, it becomes your master, not through force, but through permission. It makes the chair a little softer, the bed a little warmer, the decisions a little easier. And while you sink into that ease, your edge begins to dull. Your purpose, once sharp and alive, starts to fade, slowly, silently, subtly. That's what makes comfort so deadly. It doesn't crash in with sirens. It doesn't steal everything at once. It creeps. It wraps you in softness until you stop stretching, stop chasing, stop becoming. And one day you wake up and realize you've drifted, not because of tragedy or failure, but because you made one easy choice after another, until the fire inside you went dim. And the most dangerous part? You don't feel it happening. You laugh, relax, indulge, and time slips through your fingers. Your dreams don't die with a bang. They suffocate quietly under pillows of comfort. The mission that once burned inside you, it gets buried beneath maybe tomorrow. Just one more break, and I don't feel like it today. This is how warriors become wanderers. Not because they failed, but because they settled. But understand this, you weren't made to live soft. You were built for challenge, designed for resistance, crafted to endure, to build, to stretch beyond your own limits. There's a reason comfort doesn't bring fulfillment. It's not supposed to. The deepest part of you wants the fight, craves the discipline, hungers for the growth that only comes from discomfort. But if you ignore that call long enough, it stops calling. When you feel nothing, when life feels flat, uninspired, numb, it may not be depression. It may not be failure. It might just be comfort poisoning your edge. You've avoided the hard thing for so long that it no longer feels natural to push. You've traded the thrill of becoming for the ease of staying the same. So take it back. Reclaim your edge. Don't wait for discomfort to find you. Go seek it. Choose it. Walk instead of ride. Speak when it's uncomfortable. Do the task you've been avoiding. Carry what you would normally drop. When the easy option shows up, turn the other way. Not because it's wrong, but because it weakens you. Imagine going 1 week without the easy choice. No snooze button, no excuses, no shortcuts. Just you, choosing the path that stretches. You'd feel pain, yes, but beneath that pain, pride, strength, momentum, the return of fire. Because every time you choose discomfort deliberately, you remind yourself, I am not here to coast. I am here to conquer. Ask yourself now, are your comforts making you stronger or slowly stealing your courage? Because there's no neutral ground. Every comfort you indulge is either sharpening you or softening you, making you bolder or duller, leading you toward greatness or pulling you toward mediocrity. Comfort feels good now, but it costs you later. The price is clarity, drive, self-respect. And in the end, regret always feels heavier than resistance. The person who takes the hard path today sleeps easier at night, not because their body is rested, but because their spirit is. So choose strength. Choose challenge. Choose life over ease. When the body says rest, but you know it's time to move, move anyway. When your mind says give up, but your heart knows better, keep going. When you feel numb and wonder what's missing, find the hardest thing you can do and do it. That's where life lives. That's where power returns. That's where you return. Comfort isn't evil, but when it becomes your habit, it becomes your master. And no strong life is built under a master of ease. Strength, purpose, fire. They are built in the friction, in the heart, in the heat. You don't become what you say. You become what you endure. So start today. Choose the stairs. Lift the weight. Face the awkward silence. Do the work when no one is watching. Turn your life into a daily act of resistance, one choice at a time, one rep at a time, one truth at a time. Because comfort is the silent thief, and it only wins when you stop fighting back. No one respects a person who quits on themselves. People watch more than they listen. They remember not what you said, but what you stuck with. You can give speeches about growth, discipline, and commitment, but if your actions don't reflect those words, they fade like fog in the morning sun. Respect, real respect, isn't built on intention. It's built on evidence. People remember who kept going, who showed up, who didn't quit when the lights went out and the pressure turned up. And it starts with this, the promises you make to yourself. Not the ones you announce on social media, not the ones you casually mention to friends, the ones you whisper in silence. I'll wake up early. I'll stop making excuses. I'll finish what I start. These are sacred agreements. And the quickest way to lose self-respect is to break them. You say you'll rise early, you sleep in. You say you'll commit, you fold. And every time that happens, something inside you shrinks. Your inner voice gets quieter. Your belief in yourself weakens. And slowly, without even realizing it, you begin to doubt the one person who should be the most dependable, you. The downward spiral isn't sudden, it's a slow erosion. And the scariest part, you get used to it. You start brushing it off. It's just one day. I'll try again next week. But deep down, a more dangerous belief takes root. I don't trust myself. And if you don't trust yourself, no amount of praise from others will fix it. No compliment can replace confidence that comes from keeping your own word. But there's good news. That trust can be rebuilt. Not with words, not with hype, but with action. One act of discipline, especially when you feel nothing, starts the process of restoration. You didn't want to work out, but you did. You didn't feel like writing, but you sat down anyway. You didn't crave excellence, but you chose it. In that moment, something powerful happens. You start to believe yourself again. And when you start to believe in you, others do too. Quietly, subconsciously. You walk into a room with more weight, not because you're louder, but because you're anchored. People may not be able to name it, but they feel it. A quiet authority, a sense of, this person means what they say. And in a world full of talkers, that kind of consistency commands attention. You become someone worthy of following, not because of titles or trophies, but because of integrity. Because people sense that you don't fold when it's inconvenient, that you don't speak unless you plan to live it out. And that power, it's rare, it's magnetic, but it doesn't come from external achievements. It comes from internal alignment. Imagine this. You feel heavy. You've had a long day. The hours dragged. Motivation is gone, but there's still a task you said you'd finish. You stare at it. Every part of you wants to push it to tomorrow, but instead, you act. You finish. You do it. Not because it's exciting, but because you said you would. That single act may not win you applause, but it wins you yourself again. And that is worth everything. Because the truth is, your life will always follow the voice you trust the most. And if your own voice is filled with broken promises, your actions will reflect it. You'll hesitate. You'll self-sabotage. You'll stay stuck. Not because of your circumstances, but because of the voice in your head that says, would you admire someone with your current consistency? These aren't easy questions, but they're necessary because they reveal what needs work. They expose the gap between who you say you are and who you actually are when no one's watching. And that's where your reputation is born. Not in public, but in private. Not when you're being celebrated, but when no one sees. When the day is long, when you're tired. When quitting would be easy. That's the moment that defines you. That's when respect is earned. Anyone can start, anyone can promise. Few can persist. Fewer still can persist without recognition. But that's the price of becoming solid. That's the weight of being a person of substance. You keep going not for applause, but because your name means something to you, because your word is a contract, not a suggestion. And once you live like that, everything changes. Your confidence rises, your presence deepens, and the world begins to respond. So start where you are. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for a clean slate. Just take the next step you promised yourself you'd take. That's how trust is rebuilt. That's how identity is reshaped. One decision, one action, one moment of discipline at a time. Because you don't rise by talking about it, you rise by doing it, quietly, consistently. And when the voice inside you finally says, we don't break our word, that's when you know you've become someone worth following. Your standards decide your altitude. You don't get what you wish for, you get what you tolerate. That one truth separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. Dreams are common, standards are rare. Everyone wants success, confidence, discipline, transformation, but only those who demand it from themselves consistently actually create it. And every time you lower your standards, your results follow. Your outcomes never exceed your expectations. You won't build an elite life on average choices. When you feel nothing, no drive, no passion, no momentum, that's when your standards are truly tested. Anyone can aim high when energy is high. Anyone can say, I'm disciplined, when the mood supports it. But the real question is this: what do you demand from yourself when nothing pushes you? What do you require of your effort when inspiration walks out the door? That answer reveals whether you're building your life on commitment or comfort. Most people lower their effort to match their mood. If they feel tired, they pull back. If they feel discouraged, they let go. If they feel bored, they wait for excitement to return before acting again. But this is the reason why so few ever break past average. Because feelings are fragile, and if your work ethic depends on them, so is your future. Greatness lives in those who hold the line, especially in low moments. When nothing inside supports the mission, they still show up. That's why you need something more than motivation. You need a code, a non-negotiable system of values and behaviors that do not bend with emotion. A standard that doesn't care how tired, bored, hurt, or discouraged you feel. It simply says, this is who I am. This is how I operate. No exceptions. Picture this. You're a craftsman. You build chairs for a living. On day one, you check every angle. You sand every edge. You take your time. You take pride. But then the days pass. The novelty wears off. No one sees the underside of the chair. No one checks the details. And still, you check it. Still, you measure twice. Still, you refine. Not because someone's watching, but because your standard demands it. You're not building chairs. You're building your name, your reputation, your legacy. And your standard is your signature. That's the level you must adopt in everything, not just in the grand moments, but in the smallest. How you train, how you speak, how you rest, how you respond when no one is watching. Because when you raise your standards, your life has to follow. It has no choice. Your relationships improve, your body strengthens, your finances tighten, your spirit deepens. Because everything in your life becomes a reflection of what you demand from yourself, but the reverse is also true. Lower your standards and your life starts to unravel. It won't collapse overnight. It will drift. You'll become 5 minutes late instead of 5 minutes early. You'll accept good enough instead of pushing for what's possible. You'll start allowing behaviors you once rejected. And that slow erosion, it compounds until one day you realize you've tolerated yourself into a life you didn't want. So ask yourself now, are you shaping your life by commitment or by comfort? Because one leads to strength, the other to stagnation. And the scariest part of all, you might not even feel the shift until it's already cost you your edge. Your standard must live above your feelings. You may feel exhausted, but your standard says you finish anyway. You may feel uninspired, but your code says you show up sharp. You may feel weak, but your identity says this is who I am. I don't quit. I don't lower the bar. And this isn't about being perfect. It's about being principled. You'll fail. You'll miss the mark. But every time you slip, you return not to how you feel, but to what you've committed to. Because your code isn't emotional. It's foundational. It keeps you anchored when the storm hits. It keeps you focused when the noise gets loud, and over time, it makes you unshakable. Imagine what your life would look like if every decision had to rise to meet your highest standard. No more shortcuts, no more soft excuses, no more living by mood. Just a clear, unbreakable code of personal excellence. Imagine the strength, the confidence, the respect, not from others, but from yourself. That kind of integrity changes everything, because at the end of the day, life doesn't give you what you wish for. It gives you what you demand from yourself. You're not entitled to greatness. You earn it through discipline, through consistency, through refusing to tolerate anything less than your best. So raise the bar, then hold the line. When you feel like giving in, double down. When the voice of comfort whispers, answer with action. That's how standards become identity, and identity shapes destiny. You don't need more motivation. You don't need better feelings. You need non-negotiables. And when those non-negotiables are in place, your decisions become clear. You don't have to think, you just do. Because this is who you are now. This is the level you've chosen. And when your standards rise, your life must follow. There is no other way. Energy returns to the person who refuses to quit. Energy doesn't come from rest, it comes from resolve. This is one of the most misunderstood truths about human performance. Most people believe that to regain energy, they must stop, that rest is the answer. That slowing down will refuel them, but often the very thing they need is not stillness, but strain, not retreat, but resistance. Energy doesn't flow to the one who sits, it flows to the one who moves. You don't regain your fire by waiting for it, you ignite it by doing something. That's why when you push through just one more rep, one more page, one more uncomfortable conversation, you often feel stronger, not weaker. Something inside you clicks, the muscles wake up, the mind sharpens, the second wind arrives, but only after you choose to push forward, not before. This is the power of momentum, because pushing past the point of resistance doesn't just build endurance, it builds belief. It reminds you that you're not empty, that you're not done, that there's more inside you than you thought. And once momentum takes hold, it begins to feed itself. One hard-earned step makes the next one easier, not because the path is lighter, but because you are. Most people never discover this because they stop too soon. They hit the wall and assume it's the end. But that wall is not a stop sign, it's a test. And every test has the same question. Will you keep going when it no longer feels good? That is the gateway. That is the price. That is the moment where fatigue is defeated and energy is reborn. Not in theory, but in your bones. So when you feel nothing, do not stop. Move slowly if you must, but move. Take the next step, even if it's small. Write one sentence, walk one block, lift one more time. That action, however slight, holds the seed of recovery. Because energy isn't something that arrives before effort. It's something that meets you in effort. You earn it. You call it forth through movement. Imagine this. You're digging. The sun is hot. Your arms ache. Doubt whispers, maybe there's nothing here. You want to stop. Everything in your body pleads for ease. But something in you says, just a little more. You keep going, and then crack, you hit gold. Not because of luck, not because the conditions were perfect, but because you refused to stop digging. That gold was always there, but it belonged only to the one who endured long enough to reach it. Ask yourself now, how much energy have you left buried by quitting early? How many days did you pull back right before the spark returned? How many tasks, dreams, or relationships never reached their peak? Not because they lacked value, but because you lacked persistence. We live in a world that worships comfort and misunderstands fatigue. We are taught to interpret tiredness as a red light, when often it is just a threshold. Your body, your mind, your emotions, they don't just need rest, they need reasons. Reasons to show up, reasons to stretch. And the fastest way to renew your strength is to use it. To remind yourself that energy doesn't live in the couch or the pause. It lives in the push. But this doesn't mean recklessness. This doesn't mean ignore your body when it's truly breaking. It means learning to distinguish between the need for rest and the temptation of relief. Rest is recovery, relief is retreat. And the latter is what steals more energy than anything else, because it teaches your mind that discomfort is the enemy. That effort is dangerous, and that's a lie that weakens more people than exhaustion ever could. Here's the truth. You don't build energy by saving it. You build it by spending it wisely. Just like a muscle, energy expands when it's used. It multiplies when challenged. It adapts when summoned. And if you refuse to summon it, if you always wait until you feel ready, you'll rarely move and you'll rarely rise. That's why the second wind is so powerful. It doesn't come at the beginning. It doesn't arrive when you want it. It arrives when you've proven yourself worthy of it. And once it hits, it teaches you something priceless. You are capable of more than you thought. That discovery, that moment, it's addicting. And once you taste it, you'll never trust your first impulse to quit again. So when the fatigue comes, lean in. When the mind says, slow down, test it. When the mood drops, move anyway. The rhythm returns to the one who keeps walking. The flame returns to the one who keeps striking the match. Action is the cure for stagnation. Effort is the key to vitality. Movement is your medicine, because the fuel is not outside of you. It's not in a perfect environment, a better schedule, or someone else's encouragement. It is buried inside, on the other side of effort. And the only way to reach it is to go further than your feelings. So ask yourself, every time you want to stop, what if I'm just one rep away from power, one step away from clarity, one more minute from my second wind, and then act like that answer is yes, because often it is. Energy comes to the one who moves. So keep moving, keep pushing, keep digging, and let your resolve be the engine that wakes the fire again. You are either practicing power or permission every day. Whether you realize it or not, you're making a decision to either exercise your power or to ask for permission. One puts your hands on the wheel, the other makes you a passenger. One makes you the author, the other, just another character following someone else's script. And the harsh truth is this: most people live their entire lives waiting to be chosen, waiting to be told it's time, waiting for conditions to feel right. But life doesn't hand out permission slips. It hands out consequences for inaction. When you feel nothing, when the tank feels empty and the direction unclear, that's when it's most tempting to wait. You tell yourself you'll start when you're ready, when someone notices, when someone gives you the green light. But that green light, it rarely comes not because you're not worthy, but because the world is too busy watching its own path. No one is coming to push you. You must become the one who moves without permission. You don't need applause to begin. You don't need clarity to take the first step, and you definitely don't need the approval of people who don't understand your vision. You need one thing, a decision. That's where all power starts. Not in emotion, not in inspiration, but in the quiet resolve that says, I move now. I don't wait. I lead. Picture this. Two people sit at a table. Both have the same tools, the same hours, the same doubts. But one is frozen, waiting for the signal, the mentor, the motivation. The other, they decide now is the time. They pick up the pen, they take the first swing. And by evening, one has changed. And one has built momentum, one has redefined their story. The other, they've delayed again. The difference wasn't talent. It wasn't opportunity, it was choice. One acted, the other waited. And this is happening every day in your life, in small ways. You know the call you need to make, the project you need to begin, the boundary you need to set, but instead you wait, you doubt, you look for signs. But here's the truth. You are the sign. You are the one who creates the opening by stepping into it. If you delay until it feels right, you'll live in permanent delay, because nothing feels right at the start. Power comes after the first move, not before. How many decisions have you delayed, waiting for a signal that never came? How much time have you wasted in hesitation, hoping the world would give you certainty it never promised? The longer you wait, the quieter your instinct becomes. The more you defer, the more life passes the pen to someone else. And you end up living a version of someone else's story, wondering how you got so far from your own. But this isn't about regret. It's about reclaiming. Because you can start right now. You can shift the entire trajectory of your life with one act of courage. You don't need a crowd. You don't need certainty. You need to say, this is my life. I do not need permission to build it. It could be as small as waking up an hour earlier, speaking up in the meeting, declaring your goals aloud, starting the work even when no one believes. These moments seem small, but they're massive because they declare who you are. Someone who doesn't wait to be told, someone who doesn't beg for approval, someone who moves first. And here's the beautiful part. When you move, the world responds. Not always immediately, not always loudly, but consistently. People begin to treat you differently, not because you demanded it, but because your actions told them who you are. Power attracts power. Leadership commands attention. And when you start exercising your own authority over your life, others begin to respect it, even if they never say it out loud. When you feel nothing, act anyway. That's the moment it counts most. Not when you're fired up, not when everything's going well, but when it's quiet, when it's hard, when nothing around you gives you a reason. That's when true leaders are built. That's when real courage is formed. And remember, doing nothing is also a decision. A decision to give the steering wheel to fear, to hesitation, to someone else. But you can change that right now. One decision, one move, one act that says, I own this day, I own this direction. I don't wait, I act. You've waited long enough. The world doesn't owe you an invitation. The door isn't going to open itself. You must kick it in with presence, with purpose, with power. Every time you move without permission, you build more of it inside you. And soon you become unstoppable, not because life got easier, but because you stopped asking for permission to live it. So ask yourself today, would the person I want to become be waiting right now or moving? Now, do what they would do and watch how your life begins to follow. Your future is hidden in today's effort. Most people look at the future like it's a mystery. They imagine it as some hidden force waiting to reveal itself, like a curtain that will one day be pulled back to expose success, wealth, happiness, or purpose. But the truth is far simpler and far more confronting. The future isn't hidden. It isn't waiting to be discovered. It's built, brick by brick, act by act, choice by choice. What you'll live tomorrow is determined by what you do today. But here's the challenge. When you feel nothing, when the day feels pointless, it's easy to forget that truth. It's easy to wake up, look at your to-do list, and think, what's the point? The reward feels distant, the pain feels close, the excitement is gone. And without immediate payoff, your mind tells you, it doesn't matter. But that's a lie. Because every small action is a seed. And if you don't plant today, nothing grows tomorrow. You want success later? Show effort now, real effort, even when no one's clapping, especially when no one's clapping, because that's where the real foundation is built, not in spotlight, but in solitude. The world celebrates outcomes, but those outcomes are always the result of quiet days, unseen work, repetitions with no applause. You want to stand tall in 5 years? Then dig deep now. The most dangerous habit in the world is waiting for signs, waiting for motivation, waiting for conditions to be ideal. But opportunity doesn't knock on every door. It knocks on the door that's being built. While others dream about success, you must prepare for it. You must lay the groundwork. You must sharpen your tools, develop your skills, and build the character to carry the weight of the life you want. Think about it. The person you want to become, the life you want to live, requires something from you. It doesn't just arrive. It demands discipline. It demands consistency. It demands effort, especially when effort feels useless. And the moment you stop treating today like it matters, you disconnect from that future. Imagine someone meeting you 5 years from now, seeing your growth, your strength, your clarity, and asking, how did you do it? The honest answer? You did it on days like this. Not just the days that felt inspiring. Not just the wins, but the days that felt flat. Days where you felt like quitting, but didn't. Days where nothing inside you felt alive, but you moved anyway. These are the bricks no one sees, but everyone stands on later. Most people think big futures come from big moments, but that's rarely true. Big futures are disguised as dull presents, a quiet workout, a focused hour of reading, one debt paid, one habit kept. These are the pieces of the life you want. Miss them and you miss the build. So ask yourself honestly, are you preparing for the future you want or just wishing for it? Are you putting in the work that aligns with your vision or just talking about it? Are you acting like your choices today build something or like they're just passing time? You don't need a perfect day to make progress. You just need to act with intention, small actions, consistent actions. Those are the bricks. You might not see the structure rising, but it is, quietly, every disciplined morning, every distraction resisted, every goal moved forward by even an inch. That's the construction site of your future. But here's the danger. You can just as easily build a future you don't want. Every excuse, every delay, every time you say, I'll start tomorrow, you're still building. But you're building a life of regret. A life where your future self looks back and thinks, why didn't I take it seriously when I had the chance? Because the truth is, you are building something every single day, whether it's strength or softness, progress or excuses, discipline or disorder. You don't get to choose whether you build. You only choose what you're building. So treat today like it matters, because it does. Not because it looks exciting, not because it feels good, but because the future you want is waiting to see if you'll earn it. And earning it means showing up, especially when you don't feel like it. It means choosing alignment over comfort. It means refusing to let the dullness of the present blind you to its value. The greatest mistake you can make is believing that today's small acts are meaningless. They are not. They are the only thing that moves you forward. Talent won't save you without work. Vision won't help without follow-through. And desire dies without discipline. So rise, move, work, plant the seed, stack the brick, even if it's slow, even if it's quiet, especially when it's hard. Because this moment, the one you're in right now, is either a step forward or a stall. And your future will reflect the difference. You don't need to feel powerful to act with power. You just need to act over and over until effort becomes identity. And when that happens, you stop wondering what the future holds, because you realize you're the one holding the tools. And you've been building it all along. No one will believe in you more than you do. Most people want to be believed in. They crave support, encouragement, applause. They think that if someone just saw their potential, just spoke the right words, they would finally feel ready. But here's the truth most never accept. No one will believe in your dream more than you do. No one will chase it harder. No one will care as deeply, and no one is responsible for keeping it alive but you. This truth is uncomfortable because it means there's no magic voice coming to rescue you, no secret admirer who will suddenly validate your worth. When the lights are off and the world is quiet, your belief is the only belief that counts. And some days that belief feels strong. Other days it feels like a flicker, and on the worst days it vanishes completely. That's when the real test begins. Because when you feel nothing, when even your own belief wavers, that's when you must double down. That's when the shallow quit and the serious dig in. Confidence isn't a gift, it's a signal. And that signal isn't sent with words, it's sent through effort, through motion, through action. When everything inside says, what's the point? Confidence is not given, it is demonstrated. You show the world you believe in your vision by working on it when no one is clapping. By showing up when you could easily disappear.
By walking tall, not with noise, but with quiet, unshakable standards. That's how belief is proven, not in how you speak about your dream, but in how you show up for it. And belief isn't always loud. In fact, it usually isn't. It's not flashy. It doesn't need a stage. Sometimes belief is simply not quitting again. It's returning to the desk, the gym, the goal. It's doing the work, not because it feels great, but because it matters. Because it's what you said you would do. And every time you follow through, even in silence, you're telling yourself, I believe in this. I believe in me. Picture someone watching you from a distance. They don't hear your inner dialogue. They don't know about your doubts, but they see you. They watch your pattern, your posture, your pace. They see whether you show up early or coast in late, whether you stay committed or slip when no one's looking. And whether they ever say it or not, their respect or lack of it is shaped by your consistency. This is how belief is born, not in words, not in one-time actions, but in consistent action. In the relentless pursuit of your path, even when that pursuit feels unseen, unrewarded, unappreciated. Because belief isn't built on applause, it's built on alignment between what you say and what you do. So ask yourself, are you waiting to feel confident, or are you willing to build it? Too many wait. They distract, they delay, waiting for some inner switch to flip. But confidence is not an emotion, it's a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows with strain, with discomfort, with deliberate repetition, even when you feel weak. When you act in faith, even while surrounded by doubt, you strengthen that muscle. You become someone who trusts your process more than your feelings. And that's the rarest kind of power. That's how legacies are built. Not by those who always felt certain, but by those who moved forward anyway. Faith is not the absence of doubt. It is the decision to walk through it. It's looking at the long road ahead and saying, I don't have all of the answers, but I will take the next step. And every step after that, every repetition, every commitment honored, every excuse denied, it all sends one clear message. I may not feel it today, but I am the one for this. Think about the person you admire most, the one whose life you trade with. Chances are they didn't always feel ready. They didn't always feel bold, but what they did do was act. Consistently, authentically. They didn't wait for permission to believe in themselves. They trained their belief through practice, through routine, through non-negotiable standards. And now it's your turn. You must be the one who backs your dream, especially when no one else does. You must be the one who holds the line, especially when the wind blows hardest. Because the longer you move without needing outside validation, the stronger your internal belief becomes. And eventually, others will notice. But by then, it won't even matter because you've already proven it to yourself. Let that be your goal, not just to be believed in, but to become the kind of person who no longer needs to be. Because your work speaks, your discipline speaks, your endurance speaks, and together they create a life that commands respect, quietly, consistently, permanently. So rise, work, move. Not because you feel ready, not because someone told you to, but because you decided to. Because this dream matters. Because you matter. Because your actions are shaping a future version of you, one who doesn't just hope for belief, but embodies it. And when that version of you arrives, they'll thank you, not for waiting, but for building. You don't rise to goals, you fall to habits. Setting a goal is easy, almost too easy. You can write it on a notepad, announce it to the world, post it online, and for a moment, you feel powerful, hopeful, motivated. But then Monday shows up, or a rough night's sleep, or a stretch of days where everything feels flat, gray, and pointless. That's when reality sets in. That's when you learn the difference between wanting a goal and building the structure that's this. Because here's the truth. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the strength of your habits. Goals give you direction, habits determine distance. You can aim for the stars, but if your daily behavior keeps you in the mud, you're not getting off the ground. And when you feel nothing, no fire, no clarity, no drive, your habits take over. They become your default operating system. And that's when your systems either protect you or expose you. If you've built strong habits, they carry you. They show up when motivation doesn't. You don't need to debate whether to work out, write, plan, or push. You just do what you always do because it's not a choice anymore. It's an identity. You've trained your nervous system to obey purpose, not feeling. And that kind of discipline is rare. It's also unstoppable, but if your habits are weak, if they're stitched together with emotion instead of principle, then the second your feelings dip, you vanish. You disappear into comfort, into delay, into nothingness. You tell yourself you'll start again tomorrow, but tomorrow brings the same softness, the same escape, and soon your goal becomes a distant dream, buried under layers of broken routines. This is why your habits matter more than your hopes. They're not just behaviors, they're infrastructure. They either protect your momentum or allow it to leak. They are the silent guards of your future, and they are trained in ordinary moments, on the days no one sees, in the hours no one applauds. So ask yourself right now, what habits have I trained? When I feel tired, what kicks in? Discipline or delay? When I feel discouraged, do I lean on routine or collapse into reaction? Your habits reveal your truth. Are you reinforcing your strength or your excuses? Imagine this. You wake up and feel nothing. No inspiration, no fire, but your alarm went off. So you get up. You don't want to move, but your body steps into the routine you've built. You tie your shoes, you step outside, you begin your walk, your workout, your writing, and halfway through, something clicks. You're not fighting anymore, you're flowing. You're not debating action, you're already in it. And in that moment, you realize you're already winning. Not because you felt like it, but because your system delivered you to success. That's what well-built habits do. They turn hard things into automatic things. They remove friction, they create rhythm, and they make excellence feel normal. Not because the task gets easier, but because you get stronger. The opposite is also true. Weak habits invite chaos. If your morning depends on how you feel, your entire day is built on sand. If your workouts depend on motivation, your fitness vanishes the second life gets tough. If your focus only shows up when it's convenient, your work becomes scattered and shallow. Weak habits don't protect you, they expose you. This is why design matters. You cannot drift your way into greatness. You must build your way into it. You must design your systems with intention. Want to get stronger? Make the gym non-negotiable. Want to become a writer? Write daily, no matter how small. Want to build discipline? Start with your mornings. Don't just hope they'll be productive. Engineer them to be. Ask yourself, are you designing your habits or drifting inside them? Because if you don't build them consciously, they build themselves, and what they build without your direction will rarely take you where you want to go. Here's the key. Don't aim for intensity, aim for consistency. It's not about crushing a 10-mile run once a week. It's about doing 2 miles every day. It's not about writing 10 pages when inspiration strikes. It's about writing 1 page every morning, rain or shine. Because repetition is what builds identity. And identity is what sustains behavior when the feelings are gone. Your habits are your hidden engine. They run in the background, shaping your life whether you're paying attention or not. So make sure they're working for you, not against you. Audit them, refine them, strengthen them, and most importantly, respect them. Because when the storms hit, when your emotions crash, when your vision blurs, your habits are the only thing that can hold the line. Don't underestimate the power of routine, of doing the right thing, even when it feels like nothing. The path to mastery isn't marked by grand moments. It's paved by daily commitment. The most successful people in the world didn't win by chasing motivation. They won by building habits that didn't break. So today, even if you feel nothing, act anyway. Let your habits lead. Let your systems carry you. Trust the structure you've built. And if that structure is weak, strengthen it. 1 brick at a time, 1 decision at a time, because the quality of your life will always mirror the quality of your habits. You don't rise to your goal, you fall to your system. So build a system that catches you. And one day you'll look back and realize your habits didn't just support your success, they made it inevitable. The world responds to the energy you give it. The world doesn't respond to your wishes. It doesn't bend for your hopes. It doesn't adjust to the silent dreams you keep inside. The world reacts to your energy, what you carry, what you project, what you broadcast through your actions. And here's the truth. When you feel nothing, when you're low, empty, exhausted, that energy can either vanish or it can be created. You are not a passenger in this life. You are not simply a body moving through days waiting for something to happen. You are a transmitter, a generator, a source, and every decision you make, every way you show up, every habit you keep, it sends a signal. If you walk with strength, speak with clarity, move with intention, life notices, doors open, people pay attention, opportunities start leaning your way, not by magic, but by momentum. But the opposite is just as true. If you hesitate, doubt, second guess, or carry yourself like you're uncertain or unworthy, the world reflects that right back. It doesn't judge you, it just mirrors you. If you carry tired energy, you'll draw in tired results. If you move with hesitation, you'll attract hesitation in return. That's not punishment, it's a pattern, a loop that begins and ends with you. And most people don't realize this. They sit still, waiting to feel confident, waiting to be inspired, waiting for life to see them. But life is not watching. Life is responding. You don't wait to feel magnetic. You become magnetic by how you show up, especially when nothing stirs inside, especially when it's hard, especially when everything inside says, why bother? That's the moment you shift. Imagine this. You've had a long, draining day. Nothing went right. Your mind is tired. Your spirit feels dim. Then you walk into a room. You could drag your feet. You could keep your head down. You could carry a weight like a badge. Or you could choose differently. You lift your chin, straighten your shoulders, walk with intention, focus your eyes, breathe deep, speak with conviction. You don't fake joy. You embody presence. You decide to show up as the version of yourself that refuses to disappear. And suddenly people notice. Not your struggle, not your pain, but your presence. They feel something strong in you. They can't name it, but they respect it. Because while others shrink under pressure, you stood up, not for them, for you. That's the kind of energy that shifts the atmosphere. Ask yourself now, what signal are you sending? In the way you move, speak, carry yourself, what are you teaching the world about who you are? Are you expecting life to change for you, or are you willing to change yourself for life? Energy is not random. It is built, generated, earned through decisions, not emotions. You build it by choosing to lead your body before your mind is ready. You shift your mood by shifting your movement. You influence your surroundings not by yelling louder, but by standing firmer. Think about a lighthouse. It doesn't move. It doesn't chase ships. It doesn't try to convince anyone of its value. It just stands tall, shines bright, and remains consistent. And in doing so, it becomes a guide. That's the power of energy aligned with purpose. When your presence is rooted in principle, not emotion, you become a fixed point in a world full of drift. The people you admire most, the ones who walk into a room and change it, don't always feel powerful. They don't always feel prepared, but they've trained themselves to bring energy, not wait for it. They've built a posture of strength, a tone of certainty, a rhythm of confidence, and over time the world responds. And not because they were lucky, but because they chose their energy before the world could choose it for them. And here's the most important truth. You can do this too, right now. You don't need more time. You don't need more motivation. You don't need someone to lift you up. You just need to decide to stand taller, speak clearer, act sharper, to choose intensity over apathy, to meet life like a fighter, not a bystander. This doesn't mean pretending everything's okay. It means refusing to be defined by your low moments. It means using discipline when emotion disappears, because energy is not always a gift. Sometimes it's a weapon, something you wield with intention, something you forge through movement. When you feel nothing, that's when the world tests who you are. That's when your power is most needed, not when the sun is out, but when the storm rolls in. When everyone else waits for the rain to stop, you step into it. You shift your own atmosphere. You lead yourself. Because when you shift your energy, you shift your world. Not all at once, not with explosions, but piece by piece. One choice, one breath, one strong step at a time. So rise even when you don't feel like it. Walk with energy, move with intent, speak with force, transmit power, not passivity. Be the lighthouse, be the flame, be the one who changes the temperature of the room, not the one who matches it, because your energy is your signature. And when you master it, you master everything. Stillness is not peace. It's a warning. There's a type of stillness that nourishes the soul. It's the stillness that comes after honest effort, after a day well spent, after you've given your best and you sit present, content, grounded. That kind of stillness is power. It centers you, it restores you, it prepares you for the next rise. But then there's another kind of stillness, the kind that creeps in when you stop trying, when you stop challenging yourself, when you let days blur and goals soften. That kind of stillness doesn't heal you, it hollows you. And when you feel nothing, when your fire has dulled and your heart is quiet, you must learn to tell the difference. Because not all silence is peace. Sometimes it's drift. And the most dangerous thing about drift is that it doesn't feel dangerous. It feels easy. It feels quiet. But that quiet, that numb calmness, it might not be your soul resting. It might be your ambition dying. True peace is not the absence of struggle. It's the result of movement, of progress, of knowing deep in your bones that you acted with purpose, that you faced the resistance and moved anyway. Peace is earned by showing up, by confronting what you fear, by refusing to waste your days on passive comfort. But when your stillness is born from delay, avoidance, or fatigue, when you're not resting but hiding, it's not peace. It's a warning, a whisper from your deeper self that says you're letting go of something you once cared about. And if you don't listen, you begin to coast. Most people don't crash suddenly. They don't blow up their lives in a moment. They fade slowly, silently. They begin saying later instead of now. They choose easy over effort. They let one missed day become two, and then a week, a month, a year, until one day they look up and wonder where the time went, where they went. That's the cost of unchecked stillness, of getting too comfortable with comfort, of confusing numbness with rest. And if you're not careful, it becomes your new normal. That's why when you feel nothing, your job is not to settle. Your job is to test that silence, to disturb it, to shake it loose. You don't wait to feel alive again. You interrupt the deadness with movement, with effort, with fire. You disrupt the drift before it defines you. Picture a pond, still and smooth. From the outside, it looks peaceful, reflective, but beneath the surface, no current, no life. The water is stagnant, undisturbed, lifeless. That's what happens to people who stop challenging themselves. They become still but hollow. They're not grounded. They're stuck. Stillness without movement is stagnation, and stagnation slowly suffocates your potential. So what do? You move, even if you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. You write one sentence. You go for a walk. You speak the truth you've been swallowing. You stretch, clean, confront, create. Anything that signals to your soul, I'm still alive in here. You won't always feel the shift instantly. You might not get a wave of clarity or energy the first time, but that's not the point. The point is to send a signal to yourself that you are not gone, that you still choose to fight, to grow, to rise. Ask yourself honestly, has your silence become your comfort or your cage? Comfort is meant to be a place of return, not a place of residence, a place to regroup, to recover, not to hide. And yet, too many build their lives around never being uncomfortable. They build routines that avoid challenge. They decorate their cages with distractions and then wonder why they feel lost. You must reclaim your edge, and it starts with recognizing when your stillness is no longer serving you, when it's no longer reflection but resistance dressed in calm, when it's no longer rest but retreat. You are not here to fade. You are not built for numbness. You are meant to move, to create, to act in alignment with your deeper calling, even when it's hard, even when it's quiet. There will be days when the fire is low, when your mind whispers that nothing matters, when stillness tempts you to stay put. And in those moments, you must decide, not based on feeling, but based on truth. You know what you're capable of. You know what you've been avoiding. And you know deep down that peace doesn't come from hiding. It comes from living in a way that earns your own respect. So don't settle. If the silence around you feels too comfortable, challenge it. If your days are too still, stir them. If you feel hollow, fill the space with intention. Move, speak, build, begin. Stillness can be sacred, but only when it's chosen, not defaulted. Only when it's followed by movement, not replacing it. You are not meant to float. You are meant to rise. So rise, not tomorrow, not when it's convenient, now. Because that stillness you're sitting in, it isn't your home. It's your signal to move again. You either lead yourself or lose yourself. At every stage of life, one question decides your outcome. Who's leading you? If you don't lead yourself, someone else will. And when you feel nothing, that's when leadership matters most. You can't wait for someone to save you. You must command yourself. Give yourself orders. Set a direction, then obey it. People admire strength, but strength isn't brute force. It's self-direction. It's getting up without a speech. It's committing without applause. It's saying, I go, even when nothing inside says yes. And that kind of leadership, it changes everything. It pulls you out of slumps. It earns quiet respect. It creates progress where others see none. Imagine standing in the middle of the fog, no signs, no map. Most people sit and wait, but you walk forward because you trust the one thing no fog can hide, your decision to move. Ask yourself, are you being led or are you leading? When you feel nothing, lead yourself. That one step forward can restore your direction and your power. When you feel nothing, remember, it's not the end, it's the beginning. The moment you move through that silence, you reclaim your strength. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait to feel alive. Force yourself, step by step, choice by choice, until the fire returns. Because motion creates meaning and discipline awakens power. You are not lost. You are being forged. So rise, push forward, and prove that even in the absence of feeling, your will is still unbreakable.